I always thought if my world ever collapsed, it'd be loud. Sirens. Screaming. The sound of something breaking. But when my wife fired me, it came in the form of a PowerPoint presentation and a man with gelled hair named Blake. I'm Ethan Crowley. I'm 45. Used to be a software engineer in the corporate world before I left it all behind to build something of our own, Medstream Systems. Vanessa, my wife, had the business mind. I had the technical spine. 12 years we gave to it. I built every line of code, every server path, every damn failsafe protocol. Nights, weekends, emergencies that lasted until dawn. And she got the press interviews, the awards, the title of visionary co-founder, while I stayed behind the curtain. I didn't care. We were building something together, or so I thought. Then came that Friday morning. I walked into the office with my usual coffee-stained hoodie and server logs in hand. Blake Winters was already sitting at my desk. Vanessa stood beside him, arms crossed, lips pressed tight, like she was about to deliver a verdict, not a conversation. "Ethan, we're restructuring," she said, like it wasn't personal, like she hadn't crawled into my bed the night before and kissed me like nothing was wrong. "Your approach has been invaluable, but it's outdated. Blake is leading our innovation strategy. You'll be compensated fairly." Fairly? They handed me a folder, severance, non-compete, silence clause, all wrapped up like a golden parachute made of barbed wire. I read every line, said nothing, signed it, not because I agreed, but because revenge doesn't start with a scream. It starts with silence. I packed my things, my coffee mug, my notes, the backup drives she didn't know about. I left without a word. And that night, for the first time in 12 years, I didn't log into the servers. I started making a different kind of plan. The first weekend without Medstream was quiet. Too quiet. Like someone had unplugged me from the grid. No phone calls. No pings from the server. Number 2 a.m. alerts. Just me, my apartment, and the silence I used to call focus. But beneath that stillness, something dark and cold had started to stir. Vanessa didn't just restructure the company. She restructured me out of our life. Over the next few days, I started connecting dots I hadn't wanted to see before. Her late-night strategy calls. Her sudden trips to industry retreats. The way she started talking in buzzwords that made her sound like a business podcast with a superiority complex. I wasn't just removed from the company. I was erased. So I started digging. Vanessa forgot I was the architect. That even after they revoked my credentials, I still had the breadcrumbs. Legacy server access. Remote admin panels. Things you can't just delete with a new password. I found traces of activity. Flagged logins, untracked payments, dummy accounts hidden in the invoice logs. And then I saw his name, Blake Winters. Consulting fees. Travel reimbursements. Vision enhancement seminars in Costa Rica. All billed under our joint company account. All starting more than a year ago. I felt my stomach turn. The betrayal wasn't just professional. It was personal. Vanessa had been sleeping with him. The man who replaced me in my business. And in her bed. I didn't throw anything. Didn't scream. I just sat at my desk, watching the screen. Watching my life dismantled one receipt at a time. I clicked through dozens of transactions, hotels, luxury spas, flights labeled as client development, that never made it onto any presentation deck. And that's when I realized this wasn't impulsive. It was orchestrated. They'd been planning to push me out for over a year, using my work to build their vision, then discarding me the moment they thought they didn't need me. They thought I was a relic, a roadblock, something to be cleared. But what Vanessa forgot is that I wasn't the product manager. I was the product, and I had no intention of disappearing quietly. I didn't burn their house down. I built a better one next door. While Vanessa and Blake were busy hosting investor calls and posting curated team selfies from innovation offsites, I walked into a quiet little office on the other side of town, Nova Health Tech. I knew the founder, Darren McCall. We'd crossed paths years ago at a software expo. He once told me, "If you ever get tired of being the quiet genius in someone else's success story, call me." So I did. Darren didn't ask for explanations. He just slid a signed NDA across the desk and said, "What do you want to build?" And I told him, a faster, cleaner, more secure version of MedStream. Without the fluff. No jargon. Just tools that worked. Seamless hospital integration, real-time error handling, and a back-end even an intern couldn't break. By week 3, we had a prototype. I stayed up till 3 a.m. Most nights, writing code, testing server loads, and encrypting layers of authentication MedStream never bothered to implement. I wasn't just building a competitor. I was building a weapon. Then came the real prize. St. James Medical Center. MedStream's crown jewel. Their biggest client. The one hospital that carried almost 40% of their recurring revenue. Nova Health had tried to get in before, but MedStream's contract was tight. This time, though, St. James was having problems. System crashes. Delayed data pulls. An emergency room outage that nearly cost a patient her life. And guess what? Blake's strategic upgrades were to blame. Their infrastructure couldn't handle the flashy front-end crap he'd sold them. And the undocumented code I built? They couldn't fix it. Because I was the only one who ever understood it. I met with the board at St. James. Quietly. No pitch deck. Just a live demo. 15 minutes later, they asked how fast we could onboard. I didn't smile. Didn't gloat. I just said, give me 2 weeks. MedStream didn't know it yet, but the bottom had just started to rot. And Vanessa? She still hadn't called. But she would. Soon. It happened late on a Thursday. My phone lit up with her name, Vanessa, work, like she'd forgotten we used to share a bed, not just a business. I didn't answer. Didn't need to. I knew exactly why she was calling. St. James had gone dark on them. Their contract hadn't officially expired, but after one more critical data outage, their legal team found a clause to terminate early. A clause I had buried in the original contract during our startup phase, a safeguard against negligent system failure. Nobody ever read that fine print. Except me. By the time Vanessa called, I'd already replaced their systems. Nova Health's platform was live, stable, and saving doctors hours of downtime. We trained the staff in under 72 hours. No bugs. No delays. Just clean, efficient tools that worked exactly how they were supposed to. MedStream was bleeding. The second time she called, she left a voicemail. Her tone was fake casual, like we were still partners. Like she hadn't gutted me in front of a room full of interns and tech bros. Hey, Ethan, listen. I think we should catch up. I know things got complicated, but maybe we can help each other. Help? That word hung in the air like a bad smell. By now, I'd confirmed even more. Vanessa had dipped into our joint finances to fund the very campaigns that painted me as no longer aligned with the company vision. Thousands on personal branding coaches. PR firms. Some New Age leadership retreat in Sedona that charged $6,000 for guided meditations and overpriced smoothies. She called again. No voicemail this time. Then again. And again. I ignored every single one. I wanted her to feel what I'd felt. The quiet. The freefall. The sudden absence of everything familiar. Let her wake up every morning waiting for a miracle and watch the phone stay silent. But I wasn't done. Not yet. You ever watch someone try to fix a house while it's burning? That was MedStream now. Hospitals were calling support lines that didn't work. Error logs filled their dashboards. Nurses couldn't access patient histories. One surgeon lost access to a critical diagnostic tool mid-procedure. They had to call IT from the operating room. And Blake? The golden boy with the gelled hair and strategic plans? He vanished from the public Slack channels. His LinkedIn went suspiciously quiet. Rumor had it he was on sabbatical, but I knew better. He was running. MedStream had one major flaw, me. Not because I sabotaged it, I didn't have to. My original code was custom optimized, but undocumented. The system ran on logic only I understood because back then we didn't have a team. We had me and her. I wrote every integration, every workaround, every internal patch. And when I left, I took the map with me. I could see them trying. New developers clawing through my old frameworks, breaking more than they fixed. Every patch they applied caused 3 more bugs. Their panic was audible. I heard it from ex-colleagues who jumped ship and called me in disbelief. They don't know what they're doing, one whispered. It's a disaster. Vanessa sent another message. This one longer. Pleading. I know things got off track. Maybe we moved too fast. But MedStream needs you. Just for a quick consult. We can pay. Name your price. Name my price? 12 years. 12 years of sacrifice, loyalty, building while she branded, coding while she visioned. And now, when the empire she stole was crumbling, she wanted a band-aid made out of my time? I typed one reply. Just one. You chose your future. Now live in it. Then I blocked her number. That was the moment it became real for her. Not when I walked out. Not when St. James left. Not when Blake disappeared. But when I, the man she threw out like a used charger, said no and meant it. And the worst part for her? I wasn't angry. I was free. Vanessa didn't take silence well. When charm didn't work, she tried guilt. Then panic. I got an email from a Medstream board member, some guy I'd never met, asking if I'd be open to a strategic reconciliation conversation. Said there had been misalignments in leadership communication and they were open to revisiting prior decisions. Translation: Blake had burned everything down and they realized the wrong person had been pushed out. Too late. Nova Health was thriving. We'd signed 2 more hospitals in the last month. I'd hired 3 of my old devs, the quiet ones, the ones Vanessa ignored in meetings. Turns out they remembered who solved their problems at 3 a.m. and who just gave keynotes. I built a loyalty she never could. Loyalty you don't get from retreats and swag bags. Meanwhile, Medstream's social media went silent. Their innovative new UI disappeared from the website. Client case studies were pulled. Their LinkedIn engagement dead. Like a company preparing for a funeral. Vanessa tried again. This time she showed up. At my apartment. I saw her through the peephole, standing in her designer coat, the one I bought her after our first $1 million contract. She knocked. Waited. Knocked again. I didn't answer. She stood there for 7 full minutes. Then slid a handwritten note under the door. Ethan, I made a mistake. I lost myself. Please, just talk to me. We can fix this. You and me, we built something no one else could. I need you. Need. That word again. Funny how she never said that when Blake was presenting my code in pitch decks like he wrote it. I picked up the note. Folded it. Tossed it into the shredder. There was nothing left to fix. She didn't just fire me. She buried me. And now she was finally starting to understand what happens when you build your empire on someone else's backbone and then break it. It doesn't collapse all at once. It rots. Vanessa did the one thing I didn't expect. She went public. A LinkedIn post framed like a letter to the Medstream family. Corporate tone, false humility, and all the gloss of a woman trying to rewrite history before it was too late. She wrote, "Every startup journey has its highs and lows. As we restructure to meet the future of healthcare technology, I want to thank those who helped build our foundation, especially Ethan Crowley, who was instrumental in Medstream's early days. We wouldn't be here without him. Change is hard, but growth requires evolution. We're entering an exciting new chapter." It was masterful if you didn't know the truth. She painted herself as the brave leader weathering the storm, graciously nodding to the man she stabbed in the back. Even gave me a footnote in the legacy I built. But the comments told a different story. One hospital IT manager wrote, "Exciting? Your system nearly cost us a life last week." Another said, "If Ethan Crowley's out, we're out." Period. Investors began asking questions. Contracts weren't being renewed. Staff were quitting, not just the devs, but the support teams, the QA testers, the people who knew that under Vanessa's leadership, the company was no longer safe. Blake? Gone. Not a word. Deleted social media. Some said he ran to Europe. Others said he was suing her privately. I didn't care. The only thing I focused on was making Nova Health bulletproof. We rolled out a new feature, patient data recovery with rollback protocols. Something Medstream promised for years and never delivered. I did it in 3 weeks. St. Luke's Hospital signed on the next day. Another domino down. And still, she didn't stop. I got one last message from her personal email. "I know you hate me, but you don't have to destroy it all. You were always better than me at this. Just stop." She didn't get it. I wasn't destroying anything. I was just building what she said was impossible, a future without her. 2 months after I left Medstream, their chief compliance officer resigned. No press release. No explanation. Just a quiet edit to the leadership page on their website, the kind you only notice if you're looking closely. Because I knew what was coming next. Vanessa didn't just kick out her co-founder, she kicked out the man who designed all the compliance architecture her contracts depended on. HIPAA protocols. Emergency backup systems. Chain of custody safeguards. All my design. And she never learned how they actually worked. Now, with hospitals pulling out with regulatory red flags flying, she was standing in a storm she couldn't control. And me? I was the storm. Nova Health started getting cold emails from other hospital CIOs. Not flashy deals. Not big pitches. Just quiet desperation. We're having major issues with our current system. Can we talk? They didn't say midstream, but they didn't have to. I knew the smell of smoke when I saw it. We hired 2 new engineers. One of them was Marcus, my old lead architect. Vanessa fired him 6 months before me because he lacked cross-functional vision. Turns out he just lacked patience for bullshit. Now he was back, working beside me, stronger than ever. Together, we launched a migration tool. Hospitals could move their records from Medstream to Nova Health in under 72 hours. Encrypted. Compliant. Zero downtime. And Medstream? They were still rebooting servers manually. I heard through the grapevine that Blake had tried to sell their revamped platform to a venture group. They laughed him out of the room when their due diligence team found gaping holes in the infrastructure. My code had held for 12 years. His broke in 2 months. Vanessa? She went quiet. No more posts. No more calls. Just silence. But silence can mean 2 things. Defeat, or the sound of someone planning something reckless. I knew Vanessa. She wasn't the type to go down gracefully. So I prepared for her last move. It happened on a Monday. I was heading into Nova Health's office, second coffee in hand, mind already on the week's sprint plan, when the front desk buzzed me. Ethan? There's someone here to see you. I didn't even need to ask who. I walked into the lobby and there she was. Vanessa Crowley. White blouse, camel coat, eyes a little too wide. The kind of look you wear when you're trying to pretend you're still in control but just lost the map. Can we talk? She asked, voice thin. I nodded once. No smile. No words. We sat in the small cafe across the street. She didn't touch her drink. I just need 5 minutes, she said. No games. No business. I didn't answer. She leaned forward. I made a mistake. I trusted the wrong people. Blake wasn't who I thought he was. He stole from us. Us. Like we were still something. She kept going. I was trying to scale the company, Ethan. I got caught up in what it could be. The press, the investors, they wanted stories, not stability. You gave us stability. I just didn't see it until it was gone. I stared at her. I wanted to believe she was sincere. But then she said it. If you help me get Medstream back on its feet, just stabilize the system even temporarily, we could bring you back. Maybe not as co-founder, but as something. That's when I knew. This wasn't about regret. It was about survival. She was drowning and she thought maybe the man she betrayed would throw her a rope. I'm not interested, I said. Her face hardened. The vulnerability cracked. Then I'll sell, she snapped. To one of the big firms. They'll buy it for parts. Your code included. I smiled for the first time. You can't sell code that's falling apart. She blinked. What? I've already contacted the hospitals still on your platform. They're all in talks with us. When your contracts die, your valuation dies with them. You're not selling a company. You're selling a liability. Her lip trembled. She opened her mouth, then closed it. I told you once, I said. You chose your future. Now live in it. I left her there. At a table for 2. Alone. Just like she left me. But I was done hurting. I'd stopped surviving. Now I was winning. 3 weeks later, Medstream folded. Not with a press release. Not with a bankruptcy court headline. But with silence. Their support site went offline. Emails bounced. The office phone rang into a void no one answered. Investors pulled out. Clients vanished. The lights went out one by one. I watched it all from my corner office at Nova Health, the same kind of office she once kicked me out of. Except this one was mine and no one could take it from me. I didn't gloat. Didn't post anything. I just kept building. Vanessa? She disappeared. Some said she left the country. Others said she tried to pitch a new startup to old investors under a fake LLC name. Nobody bit. Her credibility was radioactive now, not because she failed, but because of how she failed. Burning your co-founder? Falsifying stability? Losing your biggest client to the man you exiled? Investors don't forget that. Ever. Meanwhile, Nova Health doubled in size. We secured a state contract for a regional medical network. I promoted Marcus to VP of Systems Architecture. We opened a second office in Austin. And one morning, while prepping for a leadership meeting, I got the email. Subject line, acquisition proposal, Medstream Systems. It wasn't from Vanessa. It was from her board, what was left of it. A single sentence, we're prepared to sell the company's remaining assets to Nova Health contingent on full assumption of liability and infrastructure. I sat with it for a while. Not because I was unsure, but because I wanted to feel it. The moment I took back what had been stolen. I signed the acquisition that afternoon. Medstream Systems was now a subsidiary of Nova Health. I didn't buy it to save it. I bought it to bury it. We stripped the usable tech, folded what remained of the staff into our culture, deleted every last trace of Blake's upgrade, scrubbed the branding clean. And her office? Empty. Exactly how she left mine. I walked back into the building where she fired me. Same floors. Same glass walls. Same espresso machine still humming in the break room. Only this time I wasn't a silent engineer walking out with a cardboard box. I was the CTO of the company that owned it all. I stood at the entrance to her old office. The blinds were half closed. Her name had been stripped from the frosted glass, just a faint outline left like a scar. Inside, the room was sterile. Desk empty. Walls bare. But on the shelf behind her desk, something remained, a framed photo of us. Vanessa and me. Smiling. Younger. Hopeful. Before the strategy consultants. Before the betrayals. Before Blake. I picked it up. Turned it face down. The team met in the boardroom down the hall. People who used to fear speaking up around Vanessa now leaned in confident, collaborative. I kicked off the meeting with a rollout schedule for Nova Health's new platform. One of the execs from St. James stood up. He said, "What you've done here, Ethan, you saved our network. We were on the verge of collapse. You rebuilt it. We'll never forget that." I looked around the room, my team, my systems, my leadership. I shook my head. "I didn't save it," I said. "I just built it right the first time and walked away when it was torn down." There was a pause. Then quiet nods. They got it. Later that afternoon, I stood by the office window watching the street below. The city moved on, unaware of the war that had ended quietly in a conference room. She never got a reckoning. She got something worse, irrelevance. And I didn't just get revenge. I got everything back. Except her. And that in the end was the part one was most grateful for. I didn't keep anything from Medstream. No logos. No mementos. Not even the patents we acquired in the deal. That place had been built with my hands, but tainted with her ego. There was no saving it and no point pretending otherwise. My real legacy was the system hospitals now trusted. The one saving lives in real time, not glitching during surgeries. But late one night, while cleaning out archived servers, I stumbled across a folder I hadn't seen in years. Prototype_0.9. Inside was the very first version of the system Vanessa and I designed at our kitchen table. Back when it was just the two of us, code and coffee and ambition. Before investors. Before Blake. Before the betrayal. I opened the config file. My name was there. So was hers. 2 creators. 1 vision. And 1,000 miles between who we were then and who we'd become. I closed it. Deleted it permanently. Some things aren't worth salvaging, no matter how beautiful they once looked in version 1. The next morning, I got a call from Darren, Nova Health's CEO and now close friend. "You ready to go public?" he asked. I paused. Not because I was unsure, but because of what it meant. Visibility. Attention. Questions. My story, our story, would hit the press. And Vanessa? She wouldn't be able to spin it anymore. "She'll come crawling out," I said. Darren laughed. "Let her. We've got receipts. And you've got results." I said yes. By Friday, the announcement hit every major tech and healthcare outlet. Nova Health Tech to launch IPO after tripling revenue in under a year. Ethan Crowley, lead architect and CTO, cited as key to company's meteoric rise. No mention of Vanessa. Not even a whisper. And that was poetic. She always wanted her name in headlines. Turns out, the only thing more brutal than public disgrace is being erased from history altogether. It was an email. Not from her personal account. Not from Medstream. It came from some generic Gmail address. The kind people use when they don't want to be ignored, but they know they've already lost the right to be heard. Subject, please. Just one conversation. I hovered over the trash icon. Then opened it. "Ethan, I saw the IPO news. Congratulations. Truly. I don't expect forgiveness. I just want you to know it wasn't supposed to happen like this. You were the heart of what we built. I see that now. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. Blake's gone. Investors cut me out. I'm starting over. No money. No team. Just me. I keep replaying that morning in my head, the day I fired you. You didn't even fight me. And that's what scares me now. Because I know you weren't defeated. You were preparing. Please, Ethan. Just one conversation. For closure. Closure. That word, so small, so delicate, made me laugh out loud in an office full of engineers who didn't even flinch. They knew me by now. Knew what that laugh meant. She wanted closure like an arsonist wants forgiveness standing in the ashes of the house they burned. I didn't respond. Instead, I clicked compose. Typed in my own name. Wrote a note I'd been saving for this exact moment. You ended our company with a PowerPoint. I ended it with silence. We're even. Good luck rebuilding with whatever pieces of yourself are still real. I didn't send it. I deleted it. Not because I forgave her, but because nothing I could say would make her feel smaller than my silence already did. That was the thing about Vanessa, she never feared consequences. She feared irrelevance. And now? She was just another ex-founder. The kind tech journalists call promising but unstable. Me? I was the man who walked away and built something better without her. After the IPO, things moved fast. Nova Health exploded. Recruiters flooded my inbox. Panels. Podcasts. Tech columns calling me a visionary. Funny how quickly they rewrite the story once you're the one holding the pen. I took none of the offers. I didn't want the spotlight. I'd seen what happened to people who chased applause instead of purpose. Vanessa used to say she wanted to change the future of healthcare. But in the end, she just wanted to be seen. To be known. That was the part that broke her, not the collapse of Medstream, but that when it died, no one remembered who built it. Because I never told them. They just knew. And that's the difference between a founder and a fraud. The real ones don't have to scream their legacy. It echoes all on its own. I went back to my code. Back to the product. That's where I belong. Not on stages. Not in magazine spreads. But in the quiet hum of logic and syntax where things make sense or they don't. No betrayal. No politics. Just truth written in Python. A few weeks later, Nova Health's board threw a dinner. CEOs from partner hospitals flew in. Glasses clinked. Speeches were made. I stood at the edge of the room watching it all unfold. One of the board members pulled me aside. You know, he said, I heard what happened with Medstream. She really thought she could build something without the man who made it all work. I didn't respond. He leaned in, lowering his voice. They always do. Until it breaks. He meant Vanessa. But he didn't have to say it. That night, I walked home. Alone. Quiet. No press. No headlines. Just me. And at the front door of my building I paused. Because I finally realized. I wasn't walking away from her anymore. I was walking toward myself. 6 months after the IPO, I sat in a conference room with a panoramic view of the city, the same skyline I once stared at through the office Vanessa kicked me out of. Only now? That building was mine. Medstream's old headquarters, stripped, renovated, rebranded. The logo on the front door now read, Nova Health Systems. The past overwritten pixel by pixel, floor by floor. I stood at the whiteboard outlining our next-gen rollout plan. Our platform was now in over 70 hospitals. ERs that used to panic during data crashes were running with zero downtime. Nurses were sending thank you emails. The kind of impact Vanessa used to fake on investor slides. I was living it. After the meeting, I walked past her old office. The door was gone. We converted it into a team lounge, couches, coffee machine, dry erase walls. Collaboration where there used to be command. Progress where there used to be control. As I turned to leave, an intern stopped me. Hey, Mr. Crowley, sorry to ask, but were you really one of the original founders of Medstream? I paused. Smiled. No, I said. I was Medstream. And then I left it behind. That was the final revenge. Not buying the company. Not watching Vanessa vanish. But knowing that I rebuilt everything she destroyed and better. Cleaner. Stronger. With people who didn't stab each other for power but held each other up when systems crashed at 2 a.m. I got back everything she tried to steal. Respect. Legacy. Control. Everything except her. And that was the part I'm most proud of. Because she thought the worst thing I could do was fight her. But the worst thing I did was forget her. And that silence was louder than any revenge.